any questions that you have, feel free to come off mute and ask a question, or feel free to type into the comments section.
Sounds very good. Thank you so much.
You got it. You got it. Well, welcome everybody to Career Lab Wednesday. I'm your host, George Miller. I'm here almost every week out of the year, although I have been doing some more speaking events and things, and so I am not quite as available as I used to be. But my job while I'm on here is to support you in your career development. And the way that I do that primarily is through communication skills. So no matter what your job is, you're ending up interacting with people. And that's where the breakdowns happen, is as somebody's developing as a leader, it's communication stuff where they're just not able to get on the same page with somebody. And so that's, you know, I as we were looking at what topic to bring in today, looking at AI, you know, so I use AI in a variety of ways. And a common theme that's, you know, happening now is the job apocalypse that's coming and is already in action. There are just things, it's like, you know, if we go back to when manufacturing lines were set up, and then more and more robots were created, more and more automation. Well, you know, am I going to risk having a person, a physical, you know, person that can get an injury on an assembly line? Am I going to have that, or am I going to opt for a robot where there's no chance, where the worst thing that's going to happen is it's going to break, but no one's going to lose an arm or something? And so this is the kind of thing now that is happening in another way with AI. Is, okay, well, where are the stuck points? You know, where is it going to make more sense to have this kind of robot run something? So it's absolutely going on. And so the job environment is going to change a lot. But the thing about AI is, first of all, I don't even want to call it intelligent. It's not intelligent. It's a tool. It's just like any other tool. So there is not an innate intelligence in artificial intelligence. It just takes in what it's given and can send out other things. And if you have played around with ChatGPT or anything like that, you'll see, oh, if I'm going to get high quality stuff, I got to spend hours on this thing, because otherwise it just spits back, you know, it just does whatever I give it. So what cannot be taken away are communication skills. Now, as a coach, I am aware that I use AI like a coach. You know, I feed questions to it and I get value from that. However, I don't get nearly as much value as I do with my coach. So I always have a few coaches that I'm working with. And there's an importance in human connection. That's where creativity comes from. That's the challenge between, you know, me and working with another person and us trying to get on the same page. There's friction there. There's little bits of conflict, and that's where the magic is, or the, you know, we'll say creativity. And that is not going to be replaced. And so there are skills that are now going to be needed more and more. And communication is at the heart of that. Even helping somebody get clear about what they want. It's so important to have another person to be connecting with. And then there's also the loneliness factor. So a driving force in humans, whether or not we're conscious of it or not, is our desire to be around people, even introverts. And, you know, I think everybody's an ambivert. You know, in some ways I'm an introvert, in some ways I'm an extrovert. But even people who really like a lot of isolation, like there's still the drive to connect. There's still the hunger to be around people. And so this is a huge force in human beings that I don't know that we really are as conscious of as we could be. So how do we, in this time where the job market is changing, being able to communicate is what will set me apart from other people. And there's two things that people, when they're hiring, are really looking for, whether they're conscious of it or not. It's ultimately, does this person get stuff done? And because I would rather hire somebody who doesn't have the exact skill set, but who I know is going to be able to adjust, because things are always changing. So it's like, okay, well, I see that they take initiative and they handle things. And then the other thing that I'm, again, hiring for, even if I'm not conscious of it, is how much do I like being around this person? How well are they going to interact? Because I could hire somebody who's really effective, gets a lot of stuff done, but they piss everybody else off in the process. And then that's its own issue. It's its own thing. It's a liability for me. So learning how to communicate effectively is a lifelong journey. And so no matter what happens around new technologies and things, the consistent thing is that human beings need other human beings. And without, if I am focusing on developing my communication skills, then I will be able to improve myself in the workplace. And I will be able, and another thing that a mindset shift around a career and a job, and I'm somebody who did not, like, I considered myself a success because I did not have a career. Like that's how rebellious and reactive I come from. Is I was like, great, I'm not a part of this at all. And so I didn't want, I looked at interacting with society, making money, as something to be avoided. And so for me to work through a bunch of stuff and get to the spot where it's like, oh, wow, no, this is actually a spiritual journey. And it's actually this amazing way of, how do I create value in the community that I'm in? And how do I add to my society so that I'm benefiting and other people are benefiting? That's quite a shift. And so to look at what I do for money, what my job is, what my career is, as spiritual development, as that's I find so much of my purpose in my career and in relating to other people. And that helps me become the person that I want to be. And so it's not just a thing. A lot of people I've worked with will come in and say, you know, I've had this great career. My kids are on their way to school now, and I'm wondering if I should retire, if I should start my own business. You know, what's the next thing I should do? Because I'm still not satisfied. Even though I did all the right things, there's something missing. And whatever it is that I do next, I want to feel satisfied. I want what I haven't gotten yet. I've put everything else first. Now I want to put me first. And so that decision can be made at any point in anyone's life, to say, oh, I'm going to, from here on out, I'm choosing to put myself first, to trust that I'm able to put myself first and be in sync with society, in sync with a job around me. And how do I do that? And that's a significant challenge. and one that will last for the rest of my life. So that's the context of this. So that's what I wanted to open up as the topic today. And for those of you who are listening in on LinkedIn Live or on YouTube and you've got any questions, I invite you to either jump in here directly on the Zoom like Heather or Raul. That's fantastic. I love it when I can interact with you directly. If you can't, go ahead and type your questions into the comment section, and I will do my best to take your questions that way. And if you've been on before, you've seen sometimes where someone's typing a question in and I go off in one direction and they're like, oh, no, George, it's more like this. So, just keep me up to speed on how I'm doing serving you and the question that you have. And whatever question you have is fine. Doesn't have to be on this topic of AI and job apocalypse and that kind of thing. If you've got a question about management right now, where you're working with a team, or you got something going on with your boss, or if you are working on interviewing or your resume, so any question career related, I invite that. Go ahead and throw it in to the chat, and I will do my best to respond to your question, because each one of these pieces, the resume, the interview, the management, the starting your own business, each one of these things provides a grounded way for you to become more of the person that you want to be. Each little thing can align with your purpose for why you're here on this planet. And the wonderful thing about work is it shows you right where you're at, right where you've intended to be. It shows you exactly what, if you can be with where you're at in your career, it's like the universe is saying, okay, here's the next lesson, here's the next lesson, here's the next lesson, but you gotta know right where you're at. So any question, resume, interview, managing, purpose in your career, how to feel more satisfied in your career, any question is fair game. Go ahead and type it into the chat. Go ahead and type it into the chat, and I will do my best to address your question. And as we're doing that, I'll share a little bit more about emotional intelligence and communication, and I'll share a little bit more about that. But I want everybody to know that you're welcome to jump in at any point and ask any question that you want career related. You don't have to try to stay on topic with me. So I think this idea of human interaction as being so important, it's in relationships that I really get to know myself better. And this mirrors how we develop as human beings. So, this is a really upsetting one. Like a negative example is that when children don't have somebody there responding to them, they might have food, shelter, and they might be totally tended to in that way. But when they don't have somebody there looking at them, mirroring back to them what it means to be a human, they don't develop. And a horrible example of this, you can look it up on YouTube if you can stomach it, is back in World War II. The Nazis were like, hey, let's make a bunch of blue-eyed, blonde-haired babies. But then we got to send their parents to war. So there's all these kids that don't have any parent there, but yet they're in warehouses, they're protected because they're the next line, but they don't have that care interacting with them. And so what happened is most of them didn't live. And everybody, that all the kids who did live were severely limited, really did not develop. And so when we think about our development, right, that's one end of it. Then we've got, our, parents. Most of us have a loving family, and, there's all kinds of conflicts and things in there. And that creates us and how we see the world, how I understand myself and what the world wants from me. And it's through relationship that this happens. And all kinds of spiritual texts, like, each will have some kind of way they say this. I think, in biblical stuff, it says something like, wherever two or more of you are gathered, there's the church. It's like, wow, that's that spot where I'm becoming more of who I can be in relationship with somebody else. And so no matter what is happening with AI and with new technologies, and given that we live in the world that we do, like, probably in the next 10 years, we're gonna have another technology that we haven't even thought of yet. And that's gonna change everything again. But the consistent thing is that human beings we're social creatures. And that's really where the ideas come from and the development comes from, is from us. And so if I can be focused on improving my communication skills, then that changes my entire life, no matter what my skill set is. So I've worked with a lot of engineers and people in the digital space, people who got way faster computers than I do, but, very, very smart people. And yet, if they don't know how to connect with their team emotionally, the words don't necessarily land. I had one client who said, yeah, I've given presentations in front of thousands of people. They bring me in because I'm the expert on this. And I talk, and it's like, people ask me questions afterwards. I'm like, well, didn't you listen to what I said? Like, didn't you, like, I just spent an hour on this, and it's like, you didn't even hear anything I said. And he noticed that as soon as he started getting in touch with his feelings, that as soon as he started acknowledging what's going on in his body, that people understood him better. It's like his words did not necessarily change. They probably changed a little bit. He probably got more specific with how he used the word feel and think. But he was more emotionally available. And so now he's that much more effective in his life. So cool. Thank you. Thank you for joining in. Again, anybody who's listening in, I invite your questions. I've got some questions coming in here, so I'm going to take a look at these. When it comes to updating my resume, is it practical to use AI to not only update my resume, but to also implement elements that match the current trends in the current job market? For example, having QR codes or links showcasing various star scenarios. Oh, cool. Yeah, star. Absolutely. So just use it. The biggest thing with AI, and actually even without AI, I sometimes would work with somebody who paid a lot of money to a resume writer who made their resume look good. But then when they get into the interview, if they didn't do the heavy lifting in kind of like the wording and crafting the bullet points in their resume, they didn't do well in the interviews. Like, it's like, you need that practice. So the same thing goes with AI. Absolutely use AI and make sure that it's ultimately coming from you, because that's the element that's going to stick out more. I don't, I can tell when I get an email from somebody that's written in AI, and my brain automatically doesn't, like, kind of writes it off. Like, there's not that human element in it. I like people's shorthand. I like people's mistakes. And in a resume, you're not going to have a mistake, but there's particular things that are more you than a robot is going to do. And that's really important. But using it as a tool to help you craft the situation, task, action, result, how you lay that out in a bullet point. Absolutely. Great. Oh, thank you. Thank you for that. So that's from Matthew 8:18-12, where two or more are gathered. Oh, beautiful. Yes. Okay. So I hope that helps with the resume building. Another thing around doing your resume and applying to companies is apply fast. And how do I say that? Like, you don't need to overthink it. You don't have to worry about exact keywording. You want to get your resume in front of as many places as you can quickly, because companies are more and more now able to just say, okay, great, here's this group of people that fits this description, let's go. And it's even to the point where if they are seeing resumes come in that just seem like really overworked and tailored, they're like, oh, we don't even want to deal with that. So it always depends on where you're applying. But one of the bigger things too is that networking is the most important thing in your job search. So you can get hired online, but if you're having trouble with that, then you really want to tap your network. You really want to, if you apply somewhere, connect with somebody from LinkedIn who works at that company and say something like, I'm interested in this company. I'd love to chat with you. I'd love to hear what it's like there. Something real simple like that. And go above and beyond to get yourself in, because we are at an inflection point in this country and in the world. But, I think probably most of us on here are in the United States right now. And so it takes initiative on your part to get what you want. And again, remember what I said about people are hiring for people who take initiative and people that can get along with other people. Two most important things. So if somebody takes an extra step with me in the hiring process, that shows me right there that they take initiative. That already puts you up a level. And a lot of people that I work with, and I totally get it. Like I've been coaching now for 13 plus years, and I'm always taking risks. And when I reach out, I feel scared every time. Every time I pick up the phone, even to call somebody that I know, like I have a little bit of anxiety. And so that is just, I've just accepted it. I said, okay, well, I get to enjoy the ride. I can acknowledge that I feel some fear, and that's often just an indicator that it's a good direction for me to go, and to say, okay, lean into that. So I got some more things coming in. So emotional intelligence, what situations have I encountered that made me use my EQ to diffuse tense situations, providing comfort, relief to your colleagues? And have you ever encountered situations where EQ didn't help you? Oh, great question. Hey, Eric, welcome. So this is fantastic. I mean, this is right in my wheelhouse, so I could talk about this forever. So keep me on track. Let me know if I'm going in the direction that you want. So what situations did I encounter where I used EQ to diffuse tense situations? So big one is there's in a group, there's lots of feelings, and there's dynamics that are happening. So there's always I like to use the word mutual more than I do equal. Because when I look at the world, I I don't see a whole lot of equality. Um, Everybody's got different amounts of money, etc. So there's always some kind of hierarchy that's happening. So there's those components that in a group, and then there's feelings that people are having that are not being expressed, like pretty much all the time. And so if there's a tense situation, it can be helpful for me to ask a question about a feeling in the group, or for me to express something that it isn't being expressed. And that might lead to kind of signaling to other people that it's okay to express more, to say some more truth. So it really depends. So emotional intelligence, so I'll step back even further here. So EQ, in some ways, honestly, is used all the time in interactions, whether they're tense or not. It's just emotional intelligence, which is me with my feelings. What am I feeling? Now, most of us are pretty numb to this. And in the arc of humanity, I think we're all pretty numb to this. So if I can be a little more emotionally aware, like 3% more, it makes a huge difference. And so then I think about social intelligence. So I first have to be aware of what I'm feeling. Because if I'm refusing to be present with what I'm feeling, then I'm not going to pick up accurately on what's going on around me, because I am working so hard to not feel what I have going on. So a client has a challenge with their supervisor. They have been at odds for a long time, and they are in conflict, and there's a level of anger, frustration, just constantly happening. And the job gets done and stuff, but it's not a great space. So my client learned to identify that she's actually feeling hurt and afraid underneath that anger, and that the respect that she's demanding from her supervisor, she's not showing her supervisor. She's not actually being respectful to her supervisor. And she's unconsciously communicating the fear and the hurt to her supervisor. And so there's this contention. She's really good, so supervisor wants to keep her around for the technical skills. But as she starts to identify, whoa, wait a minute, I feel a lot of hurt and fear with anybody who's in a position of authority, because it ties back to what it was like for me growing up as a kid, and the ways that my parents came over to this country and were in a tremendous amount of scarcity, and how volatile that was for me, and how scared and hurt I felt. And so, oh my goodness, the emotional trigger that I get in these interactions with my supervisor don't have, maybe 10 to 20% are accurate. Like, yeah, my supervisor could communicate better. Sure. But that huge emotional charge that I have with my supervisor has way more to do with unfinished business from the past in my life, has way more to do with the fact that I don't want to feel the hurt or the fear. I do not want to feel that. And so I'm going to stay in this kind of angry, aggressive state. And the person, by the way, my client is not, you would not describe them as an angry person. They're quite lovely. But when it's because we're all kind of subtle with the ways we take digs at each other. Like this is all, this is like the stuff we don't want to look at. And so as we're looking at this, she starts to see, okay, yeah, basically, so my supervisor is telling me some things that I can, once I let myself be with the hurt and the fear that comes up when they're giving me feedback, I can start to see what they mean. I can start to see the ways that I could improve my communications. Huh. Wow. Well, now that I'm doing that, and now I can even speed up this process, and I can say to my supervisor, you know, my concerns are this. So in a lot of the corporate spaces, you're not going to say, I'm afraid of this. You have to change the language according to whatever environment you're in. But she can now say things like, oh, my biggest concerns are this, this, and this. That's why I responded that way. And then her supervisor's like, oh, I get those concerns. But see, she owned, she was willing, she developed her emotional intelligence, her ability to be with her own feelings so that she could communicate them effectively to her supervisor. And I mean, this is like, it's a huge game changer in the workplace because this is going on all the time. It's going on at work and at home. I mean, my wife will tell you, even though I coach in social emotional intelligence, she said, yeah, George could be a lot more emotionally and socially intelligent. I would appreciate it. The more he is, the better. You know, so it's just part of being a human. So I hope that, you know, that's a great question. How did I use in an encounter emotional intelligence to diffuse a situation? So I actually talked about a client of mine, talking about myself in how I did this as even more vulnerable. And so I'm staying with the fear right now, seeing if I can tap into one that in an, oh, okay, oh yeah, totally. So I was at a meeting this morning, and I recognized that I was feeling afraid. There was less people than I anticipated, and the people who put the meeting together, I was like, oh, I feel afraid and hurt that there's not more people here. Now I'm saying to myself, oh man, was this a waste of my time? Okay. And I caught that. And historically, I don't think I would have been conscious that I was feeling afraid, a little hurt, and a little angry. But I was able to catch that and say, oh, huh, okay, well, I'm here now. I acknowledge that I feel some fear, some hurt, some sadness too, sadness that there's not more people here. And got it. Well, now that I've accepted the feelings happening in me, I could then be aware of what was going on with the other people there. And I was like, oh, I bet they feel afraid too. And so what I did was I chose to ask more questions and speak up more. I chose to say, oh, and I made a vulnerable move where I said, you know, for all these years, I've only understood you in your role in this way, but there's so much more that I could learn about you. And so I took the opportunity of a more intimate space to get to know somebody more. And if I was avoiding my feelings, that wouldn't have happened. I would not have been present with what was actually going on in that environment. And so I actually had a wonderful time and got some potential business out of it, where if I was in the mindset where I'm like, oh, this is already a waste, and I don't want to feel the discomfort here, and I'm looking to get out of here already, like that wouldn't have happened. So really friending our fear, willing to be with that discomfort, is an incredibly useful thing in life. It opens up aliveness. It opens up connection. So I hope that personal example helps as well. Now, have I been in a situation where emotional intelligence didn't help me? My quick response to that is no. I think that emotional intelligence is such a human thing. Like, it's just what it means to be human is to be emotional. Or as Maharishi said it, I think was, oh, feelings. Yes, thoughts are slaves to the feelings. And so if you think about it, like, anybody in marketing knows that, like, I am an emotional creature. And if I try to pretend like I'm not, well, I'm kind of shooting myself in the foot. Like, I'm just not going to be as effective. Oh, cool. So yeah. Yeah, I don't think I just want more emotional intelligence. I think the more that I um, allow feelings to happen, the more insights and more connectivity I get. So we're coming up on there is one other thing that I wanted to say about using EQ in a group. There is a um, personality assessment that I have put together and put a video up about. This can be really helpful in any social interaction, in interviewing, of course, at the workplace. I've worked with teams before who everybody on the leadership team takes this, and then they're able to see. And the main point of the one that I made was, I want you to be able to see other personality styles more. So of course, starts with you knowing your personality style. But then the focus that I want you to have is to be able to assess what other personality styles you're talking to. And that's the real skill then, is to say, oh, I'm more of an introvert. I'm talking to more of an extrovert. That means that if I want better results, I'm going to mirror that better. I'm going to recognize that I feel a little uncomfortable when somebody who's acting like Tigger, as somebody who's more excitable, is like talking to me. But I'm going to actually lean into that discomfort, and I'm going to smile some more. And I'm going to like allow myself to do that, because now that other person is hearing me better. It's like I'm speaking their EQ language. And so take a look at that. That definitely helps give some more context for relationships. And then same thing in an interview, looking at somebody and saying, oh, this is the type of person I'm talking to. Okay, well, I'm going to do the service of adjusting how I communicate. So I'm going to speak a little bit more of their language. And this is incredibly helpful. And again, it requires emotional intelligence. It requires me, and when I'm talking to the analytical types, it helps me to know, oh yeah, they're not as expressive. That doesn't mean they hate my guts, even though my system kind of thinks that. It's like, and sometimes the even bigger trap for me then is, oh, now I have to like overperform. And I start going like animating myself too much. And so then I can say, oh, I'm talking to an analyzer. I'm going to down regulate. I'm going to be more contained. I'm going to speak slower and clearer. I'm going to make sure to give as many data points as I can and ask them if they have more questions. And they're going to have more questions. And I'm going to understand that those questions aren't an indictment of me as a human being, that this is they speak a different language than I do. So it requires me to be with my own discomfort. And that, again, is the core thing, emotional intelligence. So I thank everybody for joining in. We're coming up on my closeout time, but I want to check in with anybody who's listening in online or anybody here in the Zoom. Any more questions before I head out? Any things that you want support with? Go ahead and type into the chat. Let me know. Anything that you're wanting more support with. I'm just checking ahead for, okay, yep. I'll be back next week as well. So take a look at the personality assessment. And, oh, I should talk about what I do for a moment. So I coach people one-on-one, and I do group facilitation. I am starting another group soon. And it's for people who have done a little bit of coaching, because this is the emotional intelligence gym. It's basically emotional exposure. So everybody in the group takes on an assignment to develop a new relationship behavior. So a new way of communicating. So if somebody's like more of the quiet type, they might take on an assignment like interrupting or asking a question every minute or something. So it's just everybody gets the actual practice of developing new behaviors in this group. And then it's within the context of personal development, and there's curriculum that I share in that. So there's that I'm developing, and of course one-to-one coaching as well. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Yes, thank you for the. I know I love this place, and totally is me. And you are welcome to book a one-on-one with me. You know, if sometimes I can help people get kind of confirm the path that they're on, and sometimes if it's a bigger project, we might work together in a longer term coaching relationship. So if that's something that interests you, I invite you to set up a time with me as well. Okay. Well, Heather, thank you for your questions, and thank you everybody for joining in today. I'm George Miller. I help people friend their fear and step into more aliveness in their life to get as much as you can out of our time here on this wonderful planet. All right, everybody, take care.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
Oh, thank you, Heather. You too.